so, ready? Yeah. So the next point is, an analysis of the basis. So we've had, what did we have so far? An analysis of the object of our potential anger. So the perpetrator, if you like, the person who harms us. So we spent quite some time on this. And Polly, can I share this, what you said to me? Sure. This was helpful. So Polly said, sometimes she has this feeling of resistance. I don't want to deal with this person. I don't want to think about this person. You know, who's calls me grief. So that's an interesting reaction. It's like, I don't want to waste my precious time meditating here to think of them. Naturally, because there's still this dislike. So it's good to recognize that kind of feeling. You don't want to, because that's actually when you want to deal with this person. I mean, later on we do generate compassion for him or her. That'll come later anyway. But first we're just dealing with why it is unjustified. So it shows that there's still some kind of dislike there, and we need to deal with it, right? But if you think about this well, the things that make us unhappy are usually other people who do things we're unhappy about. We go throughout the day, it's usually other people, and it's an incredible protection. If you think that unhappiness you can take out of your life, how amazing. Because even if we don't get angry, we still get unhappy when someone does something to us. So if we can take these reasonings and go, wait a minute, right? And it's just a matter of habituation. If you start in the morning, you go through these points, and if you have the notes, you could just make very brief notes just to remind yourself. And then right away it comes back. You just need a few words, and you go duck, 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 duck. And then something happens, right away your mind clicks into that reasoning, and you don't even get upset. I mean, so many situations where potentially we would get unhappy and upset. I mean, our life just gets happier. Even not considering liberation and enlightenment, of course, if we can move in that direction and take that as our focus, perfect. But we also need to be happy right here and right now. And I think these are some of the most potent Dharma practices. They're so powerful, especially the one on patience. So, of course, if you want to go to take it to another level, take Shantideva's text, because this is mainly from Shantideva.
It's later what we did. We learned Shantideva's practice of patience with There Is Holiness, Healing Anger, which is a beautiful book.
Yes.
And we read it together, but we were talking personally.
Yes.
Problems that we have, not just in general talking about it, but my problem with something. And then somebody else around rose other problems. It was very...
That's very beautiful.
It was very personal, not just talking intellectually or Dharma talk.
Yes. No, that's actually very important. That's what we should do, basically, because it should not be outside of ourselves. And hopefully in the meditations, that's when we take a personal situation. That's most important. But what is beautiful, and unfortunately we don't have the time to do that, to actually share with one another. Because sometimes we forget certain situations, and then someone else brings it up, and I go, oh yeah, I have the same problem. I'm in the same situation. So it's very beautiful, that kind of sharing. Okay. Anyway, so there's so many different techniques, so many different ways of doing it. And of course, this is the 21st century. It's not like you have a monastery, it's not like you go to debate and so forth. But that's not the point, those are just techniques. So we have to create new techniques. So whatever helps, if it helps in this kind of setting, or maybe if you have a study group and everyone sharing their experience, it's also a kind of analytical meditation, if you like. Right? If you share with one another, you analyze, you take it deeper. Okay. All right. But of course, real analytical meditation is when you really make a change. So there should be that's why we do it in the setting, that it really goes to a degree where you go, oh yeah, it's true. It affects you in a different way. Emotionally, it affects you. So let's try and do this kind of more intensive way of dealing with this. I've never really mentioned focusing on the emotion that has arisen. But if you yourself, whenever there's a sense of, spend a moment focusing on that. Spend a moment just focusing on that, right? Whatever kind of conclusion you come to. And we'll do this, of course, at the very end as like a conclusory practice. Okay. So, now, having talked about the object of anger, the subject, ourselves, now the basis. What is our basis? what is the basis for us as a subject? So when we said subject, it mainly referred to our own mind previously, our thoughts, attitudes, perceptions. Now the basis is our body, this body. Okay, that is the basis. So from the point of view of the basis, our anger is not justified. Because any harm inflicted on us, what is it? Verbal, physical, or mental? If someone harms us, in which way do they harm us mainly? What is... Verbal or physical? I mean, mentally, like, unless we're clairvoyant, you know, oh my God, there have been negative thoughts about me. You walk through Tel Aviv and you're like, oh, that person just had a bad thought about me. How dare they? It's good we're not clairvoyant. Right? I mean, they looked at me in a funny way. That's already...
Schizophrenic.
Pardon?
Schizophrenic.
What?
Schizophrenic.
Schizophrenic.
Allez, schizophrenic. Yeah, they do that. That's right, that's true. If you're schizophrenic, oh my God, terrible. Yeah, you think other people think about you like that. But usually it's like, you know, like, I mean, I walk through town and people go, you know, I get that sometimes, of course. You know why I really like it? I'll tell you a story just because it's funny. I don't have any problem with that for one reason. The first monk I saw, a Western monk, I saw in Dharamsala. I got to know him later, wonderful monk. But anyway, when I first saw him, I did exactly that. Oh, how embarrassing. He made me angry. He totally made me angry. I was like, why do you have to dress like a Tibetan? Why do you have to look so stupid? You know, pretend. I didn't know anything about Buddhism. And you know, I just thought he was dressing up weirdly because he wanted to be like a Tibetan. That was my thought. I had this totally negative thought. And I still remember the store. I can still see him coming out of that particular shop. The shop is still there. I'm just thinking...
You still purify this moment.
Yeah. I was thinking, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. If he could see himself. I felt embarrassed for him. I felt angry and embarrassed. Very strong emotion. I still remember that. And now when people go, and I know, it just brings me back to that time, and it just makes me laugh. I'm glad I had that experience because I know exactly what that feels like, right? I cannot take it personal because I know exactly what I was thinking. I have no idea what it meant. So, okay, so very good when it happens to me, but it happens to me every now and then. I differentiate between sometimes people go, they look at me and they go, and I'm thinking, oh, they've been to Dharamsala. And sometimes they say namaste. The supermarket where I go to, there's always one guy who says namaste. Anyway, so, but I'm saying that, I mean, that's me, you know, walking around in that way. But in general, you know, people can only harm us by saying things that we hear, by physically harming. That's it. So it's the body. We need this body. If we didn't have that body, and if we're not clairvoyant, people cannot harm us. Okay, so let's look at the body therefore. Okay. Analyzing the causes of harm and where the fault lies. So this is like here on analysis. So first, no, sorry. The actual outline is on analysis of the basis, anger is unjustified. So upon analyzing the basis, the body, we come to see that anger is unjustified. Okay? We've done before upon analyzing the subject, the object, the subject, now it's the basis. And then this is subdivided into two, analyzing the causes of harm and where the fault lies. That's one outline or heading. And then the next heading is analyzing our commitment or analyzing your commitment. So analyzing the causes of harm and where the fault lies. And that is, if we do not have a body, if we were made of empty space, right? If we didn't have a body, no one could hurt us, right? I mean, if we had no ears, nothing to perceive the sound, not this body. If we didn't have this body that can possibly be beaten, or you know, something can happen to it on a physical basis, we can be pushed around, whatever happens to us physically, with regard to the body itself, or with regard to hearing voices. So we have this particular body, a body that is very fragile and delicate. Very fragile and delicate, in particular with regard to like physical hurt, being punched or being, you know. So our body, and this example with the wound is again, but we first, initially, yesterday we used the example of the wound with the mind. Our mind is like a wound. But even our body is. It is ready to hurt at the slightest touch. So even something as small as a mosquito can cause us great grief, right? Like a mosquito, a virus, this small. So it's very fragile if you think about it. So from the point of view of the basis, both our body and the enemy striking us, for example, if there's a person who harms us, so enemy again means like a person who we don't like or we have a problem with, could mean literally enemy, could mean just someone we don't like, could even be our partner when we have a fight, right? Could be someone very close to us when we have, in that moment we don't see them as the partner we really love, etc. We see them as like an enemy, someone who's, you know, harming, trying to harm us. So therefore, in that moment, the enemy striking us, let's say we get beaten by someone, or, you know. So the direct cause, directly, of course, it's them beating us. The fundamental cause is karma, but we've already dealt with that. That's not mentioned here. But there's the harm, and another cause is having this body, right? If we didn't have this body, then we couldn't experience that harm. We couldn't be who strikes at someone who doesn't have a body? So it's only because there's a body. If he didn't strike us, we would not experience pain. But if we didn't have this body, we couldn't feel pain either. So it's two things. You need two things. You need the physical harm. Likewise with the words. You know, if someone uses abusive words, again, if we couldn't hear them, you know, the words, without the words, we wouldn't feel hurt. But even without the body, we couldn't hear the words. So we need both. Both are responsible. So who created this body? Us. Right? We were responsible. We've got this body as a result of past actions. Not only the experiences we have being harmed, that itself, of course, is the cause of a completing karma, but the fact we have this body, right?
Attachment.
Yeah, it's because in our previous life, when we died, just before we died, there was like very strong attachment to existence, which was responsible for a karma ripening again for us to be reborn again. It's really our wish to continue on. It's just this attachment to this existence which is responsible for having this body, again a body. And that body is also necessary to be harmed. So it's saying, of course, there needs to be a karma to experience the karma. But even before that, just having a body. Just having this body. Even if we've accumulated karma, but we don't have this body, we cannot experience the pain. For example, we can't experience negative karmic results based on something physical. If you don't have a body, you can't experience that. Okay, so that's the kind of even more fundamental basis that since we possess it, we can be physically or verbally harmed. And those are the only two ways people can really harm us, because we don't know what people think. Right? Okay. So, therefore, we have this fragile body, we have this body that can receive harm from other beings or from the elements, right? From the environment. I mean, hot, cold, we're so sensitive. There's only a few degrees. Really, you think about it, what is it? In Israel, 24 degrees. That make you comfortable. A little lower, a little higher? Come on, you're uncomfortable. Right? There's really not much room in between. I mean, even if we sat here naked, 24 would not be warm enough. We'd have to take it up to 30 to be warm. Okay? So with the clothes we wear, we can adjust a little bit, but in the end, we're terribly fragile, very sensitive to everything. I mean, how many times we have to eat? It's actually amazing, right? You've just eaten a few hours, okay, and then again, start it all over again. Basically, to me, sleep is still the most amazing thing. The most amazing thing. You know, with like Zippy, she taught me now yoga, and I'm trying to do it now. You know, I did it yesterday, and I did it also I thought this morning, but this morning I was so stiff, and I was like, what? Last night I could bound down. I can't even go down. I was thinking, of course, I lay there for 7 hours. For 7 hours, I just lay there like a stick. How flexible can I be? So 7 hours, 8 hours every night, just lay there, unconscious. Gosh, think about this. I mean, someone asked me last time. Love it, right? Love it, of course, because otherwise I would feel crappy. I mean, that's the problem. I love it because otherwise, I mean, you take half an hour away and I'm totally grumpy the whole day. Last week, one day, when we went out for lunch, to tell you the truth, I didn't have enough sleep. I was so grumpy. And only when we went out, I got better. So only 1 hour of sleep, I'm 1 hour. And I'm totally, I'm like a monster. So, it's bizarre. Our life, if I didn't have to sleep, people ask me, don't you like to sleep? Yes, I do, because I need it so much. If I didn't need it, I wouldn't like it. Like when we were little and our parents put us to sleep, how terrible when you can't sleep, right? Just lying there, not allowed to do anything. So my sister and I would always secretly play, so you just lie there. But it's terrible, right? You get so bored. So we didn't have to sleep. We didn't have to eat all the time. It's amazing how much we eat. Like, seriously, if you had to only eat once a day and be fine, right? Last year, I tried to not eat in the evening. I was obsessing about food. At 3 o'clock, I was like, food. I couldn't sleep at night. I could not fall asleep. I was awake up till 2, 3 o'clock. Couldn't sleep. It's just about food. First thing in the morning, breakfast. And I tried it for 4 weeks, for a month. I thought it got better. It was just getting worse. I had to pee all the time. Night, I had to pee all the time.
Because you drank a lot, that's why.
Yeah, right, because I was so hungry. So anyway, it just shows us. Come on. Really, my life would be much easier. So much time is spent, making food, preparing this. We've got a pretty messy kind of body. And if you don't have water, trust me, in Dharamsala, you're not going to have a shower. You start smelling quickly, right? Doesn't take much. So it's really a fragile body. We're so attached to it, but terrible. The time we have hardly any time for Dharma practice. Really, those 8 hours or 7 hours you lie there unconscious. Really, that's such a waste of time. Think about it. And you can't shorten it because you become so grumpy. I become so grumpy. Right? So anyway, I'm just saying to be aware of this body, this very fragile body. So without that, also we couldn't be beaten up and we couldn't be... So really, we created this body. We are responsible for this body. We made it. We wanted it. We want it. We're attached to it. When we die, there'll be an instinctive... It's not even like Tzippi was very right about it. She made that point. She said, yeah, well, on a coarser level, you may want to die. It's like, I got enough of everything. I just want to die. But on a little subtler level, no. So I don't want to know how many people kill themselves. And as they're flying through the air, they're thinking, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I shouldn't laugh. Or if you hit the ground and you're still alive for a few moments, and you're like, shit, that was not a good idea. Sorry, I'm laughing. But seriously, because then instinctively we want to live. It's so deeply ingrained in us. It's really not, we can't underestimate it. That's why we try to meditate, to bring it to a more subtle level. Because on a coarser level, a lot of our actions actually come from a subtler level. So on a subtler level, we want this body. We're so happy about our restrictions because we don't know anything better. But seriously, we get harmed. We can get harmed because we have this body. We're responsible. We're attached to it. With all the balagan that it comes with, right? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's the idea of here. This body being actually on an even deeper level than just karmic experiences, because we couldn't experience the result of being harmed physically or verbally unless we had this body. So even the karma couldn't be there. It's a bit like if you have the karma to die in an airplane crash, you need an airplane. It's as basic as that. If you don't have an airplane, you don't die in an airplane crash. If you don't have a body, physical body, you can't be physically harmed.
If you don't have the money to fly.
Or maybe someone sponsored the flight. That's even worse, right? Someone sponsors you that flight. Finally got to sponsor that place entirely, and then it kills you. Right? Or you got all the miles together. Anyway, never mind. The irony of that. His weapon and my body are both the cause of suffering, Shantideva says. His weapon and my body are both the cause of suffering. He brought the weapon and I brought the body. So at which should I be angry? Right? He got the weapon, I got the body. But I'm angry at the one who brought the weapon. Okay, so let's do a meditation on that. Again, spend a few moments to just settle the mind. So now to analyze our body, to see that having this basis or this body is just another cause that makes it possible for us to be harmed by someone. So besides the perpetrator, the person who harms us, being one of the causes, besides the karma we've accumulated, being even more fundamental cause, the actual main cause that enables physical or verbal harm is having this body. And we are the ones who created this body, who produced it. We created the projecting karma, and the attachment that led to the ripening of that karma. And so instead of getting angry with the person harming me, shouldn't I really be upset that I have such a body? Such a vulnerable, fragile body. then the next point that is made here as part of the subdivision of the analysis of the basis, seeing that anger is unjustified. Another point, and we don't need to meditate on this, but because we have a lot more to go, so analyzing our commitment. So to analyze also our commitment, if we have taken, for example, the Bodhisattva vow, we have the commitment to work for the benefit of others. So just reminding ourselves, if we have taken those vows, even if we've taken lay vows, it does include the fact that we should not. So the basis of our vows is our body, having taken the Bodhisattva vow, having taken any other vows, or even having just committed ourselves to the Dharma, having, whether we're Buddhist or not, that's not important, but make like a commitment, like I really want to do this, I want to change my mind, I want to transform my mind. So we've made that commitment, we have a certain commitment, and then again, do I really want to act upon my anger? Is this really something I want to do? So therefore, to remind ourselves of our commitments, of the vows we've taken, and even if we haven't taken any vows, the kind of commitment that I've made to not harm others. Yeah, so that would also be something we could remind ourselves. But unfortunately, you have it when I send it to you. I highlighted the bits that we meditate on, so should I leave the highlights? Yeah. Okay, so I have these highlights in there, so you could still take time at home, except we don't have that much time here. And
You can continue on Skype.
yeah, right.
She can stay for another weekend.
Yeah, right.
Because in Salo she has a lot of free time.
Yeah, and we go to the airport together. We all drive in one big car, and I'm just talking. As I'm checking in, you're all like... Anyway. But in particular, what is mentioned here is the fact that if we want for the teachings to remain, we need to really create the causes. So instead of harming others, we need to create the causes. So here I mentioned, for example, to volunteer. So we should practice and enable others to practice, to volunteer in whichever way we can. And I know many of you spend already a lot of time
How
volunteering.
it's connected? I didn't understand how it's connected with anger.
So our commitment to work for the benefit of others. So instead of harming others, our commitment is to benefit others. So when a situation arises...
This was in the giving section.
I know.
How it came.
No. I brought it up during the given section. Somehow it came up without it being in my notes. But here it does talk about we have this commitment to work for others. So to the commitment to continue with the Dharma. So instead of harming others, we should really work on our commitment to benefit others, to work for the Dharma continuously.
How
and
it
this.
happened in a moment of anger.
No, I'm saying this is what we should reflect upon, right? So when anger arises, what am I doing? I have this commitment, I have Bodhisattva vows. So actually, or I have made other commitments, so actually I should turn it around. And instead of getting angry, I should work for the benefit of that person. I should work for the Dharma in general. So, and here it says in the Abhidharma Kosha, the holy Dharma is two things, scriptures and realizations. Holding and spreading the teachings are the two great practices. So I need to remind myself to practice. So how am I practicing? Experiential and scriptural kind of teachings. So, and in this context, I was just reminded of that. What can I do for the teachings to remain? I practice them myself. I make them available to others. So that's where it comes in my notes. Yeah. So it's a bit of a jump. Never mind.